to cover. So yeah, I hope you guys are ready to go. Grab your coffee. Um, we are going to cover one of my favorite Psalms here today. So feel free to ask any questions, and I'll try to address that as we go along. Let's go ahead and get started here. Welcome to H2O Bible Study Thursday. Today we're going to look at Psalm 13, which is one of my favorites. It's a very short psalm, and it does something that I do not enjoy doing, lamenting. And so we'll get into that. We're studying this with the acronym PSALM, P-S-A-L-M. P, what is the psalmist feeling and doing? S, what is the situation? A, what does he ask or assert? L, what does it say about the Lord? And M, what does it say about me? So I think it's best to start with the S, the situation. And so let's just read through the psalm here together. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? So there's a little clue there. There's an enemy, right? We don't know what part of David's life this is. He had an experience of being chased by King Saul, and then he became king, and then he sinned with Bathsheba, and then later in his life, his son Absalom had a coup against him. And so there's these different chapters. It's kind of hard to say where this psalm is written from. Verse 3 and 4, consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. So is that hyperbole, or is his life maybe in danger? Maybe this suggests he's older. I don't know. Lest my enemies say I have prevailed over him, lest my foes, plural, okay, rejoice because I'm shaken. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he's dealt bountifully with me. So I don't know. Do you guys see anything there with the situation? I really don't know. It's hard to really tell from the psalm what the situation is. So we're going to go to the question of the psalmist. So let's look now at verse 1 and 2 with what he's feeling and what he's doing. And this is really rich. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long? It's like the repetition. You got to get a little more emphatic. How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? So you might want to ask yourself, what is the psalmist actually feeling here? And I think that there's a lot of feelings that we could dig into. He's feeling depleted, exhausted. I'm done with this. I don't know if that's a feeling, but disconnected from God, abandoned, distant. I don't know if it's due to anxiety or stress, but there's tons of feelings that you can dig out of the first few verses, right? And when you ask yourself the other question, what is David doing? That's what he's feeling, but what is he doing? He's lamenting. So it's interesting to just think about that. What the psalmist models for us is not medicating, not stuffing his feelings, but lamenting, taking time to dig into the heart and express those feelings back to God, allowing himself the room to say things that may not actually be true about God. I want you to notice that. In Psalm 22, verse 1, we've talked about this. My God, why have you forsaken me? Is that a truth statement? Not necessarily. So in lament, it sounds like complaining. It sounds like an accusation against God. It sounds like he's not trusting God. There are certain tribes of Christianity that are less comfortable with this and feel like we should always be happy and rejoicing and smiling. And the Psalms just give us a different path than that. And so I just want you guys to see that. Lament is just pouring out what you feel. And otherwise, he would have said, I feel like you've forgotten me, but I know that you haven't. I feel like you're hiding your face from me, but I know that's not true. And that's not what he does. So lament allows our heart to dig deep and explore what's there, and we will get to trust. We will get to trust, but I just want to say lament is uniquely Christian. It's like the Christian can look out at the world and realize it's not supposed to be like this. Like even right now, this is not the way it's meant to be. And we can move into that and mourn and lament. Okay, let's look at verse 3 and 4. Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemies say, I have prevailed over him. Lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. So what's he feeling? For me, it's kind of hard to tell. Is he feeling helpless, hopeless? Or is he actually beginning to feel a little hopeful here? It's really hard to say. But one thing he's doing, not feeling, one thing he's doing is making a specific ask. So he's no longer lamenting, but now he's turning to God and asking God to do something. Consider me, answer me, light up my eyes. That phrase, light up my eyes, I think it's from Numbers 6:25, which says, may the Lord cause his face to shine upon you. It's like saying, God, would you help me with my countenance here? Would you help me to get some hope? And sometimes, because we're not Hebrew, and a lot of us don't know Hebrew, and their words are often packed with meaning. So consider, to me, as an English word, just means think about. But the Hebrew word actually means to look intently with favor. So isn't that a cool word to just realize that he's asking God, hey, return your favor upon me and to my countenance and to my circumstances. So now, verse 5 and 6, we really get to some gold here. This is really some great stuff here. Verse 5, I have rejoiced, but I have trusted, in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. Now, I'm kind of reading into this. I'm putting inflection, emphasis where I think that's the way David is writing. But what is he feeling? First of all, he's feeling hopeful. He's beginning to feel some joy. What is he doing? He is remembering, he's drawing to his mind things he knows about God. And this is really rich. He is lamenting, but he moves out of lament to making some specific requests of God. And then he coaches himself through this. He draws to his mind what he knows about God. And so when he says, my heart, but I have trusted in your steadfast love, I think that's the Hebrew word chesed, which is loving kindness, which is an emotional, heartfelt, covenant love And he's reminding himself, I have trusted this before. I have trusted you before. And I want you to notice what happens here. He goes from remembering to determining to singing. Okay? Do you guys see that? I remember. I have trusted in your steadfast love. Okay? And then to determining, my heart shall rejoice. I will sing to the Lord. And I want you to notice, we don't know how long this psalm was written over, what period of time, but there's no mention of anything changing in his circumstances. His experience of God hasn't changed. There's nothing that says that God has moved in and just touched his heart. His circumstances haven't changed. Nothing's changed. But his feelings has changed as he remembers and determines and then moves into that. So this is a very powerful psalm. One of the things we've talked about here over the last month or so is how anxiety and stress affect us. And I've given this illustration like 10 times of a fog machine rolling in clouds of doubt into our minds. We forget the narrative that we're living in, who we are in relationship to God, and our feelings get hijacked. One of the things that can stop that fog from rolling in is the fear of God. And I don't mean fear in the sense of I'm afraid I'm going to get lit up by a lightning bolt. The fear of God is like, I have reverence for God. I'm going to believe truth about God. We're allowed to lament, but he brings himself back to believing truth. And I know this may even sound cheesy, but the fog, the fear of God, acronym, sorry, apologies, the fear of God clears our fog. And so this is really helpful to me because when the clouds of doubt or discouragement or anxiety or stress come in, after lamenting, we can remember what is the truth about God. And you see right here in this psalm, this truth flip. He is experiencing this emotion, and then he says, but. And you'll see that throughout the Psalms. David will be expressing some emotion, and then he'll say, but this I know. And the fear of God that he has in the remembrance of truth helps him to get control of the runaway train of his emotions. So this has really helped me a lot, just to look for that truth flip and to remember that my fog, my fear of God, can drive out the fog of doubt. And really what we're talking about is rational Christian thinking. Maybe we should call that rational Christian emoting and thinking, because we're doing both. So I'm discouraged, but God is good. I feel abandoned, but God is faithful. So we want to be careful on this, because I'm not saying that we get too quickly to that and use Christian rational thinking to not feel. But once we move into lament, then we can remind ourselves of the truth. And this has just been really helpful to me. We can worship God in the middle of our struggles. We can worship God when we're having a hard time. So I did a little study of some of the Psalms, just looking for action words. And this was really helpful to me, because the Psalms are meant to be a mirror. And so as you look through different Psalms, we can see that David or other psalmists cry out to God, they lament, they bow in reverence, they sing for joy, they give thanks, they wrestle, they introspect, they yell, they reflect, they believe, they remember, they choose to trust, they wait, they ask, they worship. And the point is, some of us relate to some of those actions. Some of us probably are like, I am I never lament, that's not part of my prayer life. I never give myself freedom to express that. And others of us might say, man, I'm great at lament. I never get to the singing part. I never get to the speaking truth part. So that's a helpful thing to just think about. So we've talked about the psalmist, what he's feeling and doing. We've talked about the situation, which we don't see a whole lot of. And we've really talked about what does the psalmist ask or assert. He asserts these truths about God. So what does this say about the Lord? That's the next letter in our acronym of Psalm. What does this say about the Lord? I know this is really simple, but God is not your feelings. If I follow my feelings, I wouldn't follow God real well. And so that's as simple as it is. It's real helpful for me through this psalm, I see that God is not my feelings. I think the psalm also tells us that a good God allows really hard circumstances into our lives. Because you see the psalmist saying, how long, how long, how long? And it's like there's this big crescendo. So good God allows really hard circumstances. I think it also says, God has done way more for me than I remember when I'm in a bad place. Because you see that here in this psalm, he ends with, I will sing to the Lord because he's dealt bountifully with me. God has dealt bountifully with me. So there's way more that God has done for us. This is why the Psalms to me are like a life coach. It's like David. I've hired David as my life coach. And when I open up the Psalms, he talks to me about how to relate to God. So P-S-A-L, what does that say about the Lord? The last one is M, what does this say about me? So one of the things that this psalm says about me, and I hope you guys can track with me, is like, this is your faith. You need to decide what's true about God. You're responsible for your faith. God is not going to make you believe. He's not going to make you lament. He's not going to control you in that sense. That's very empowering to me. Like, wow, I can make my faith strong and vibrant by lamenting and by also remembering the fear of God to drive away the fog in my brain. So I also see on the M, the me, that it's not wrong to question God in one sense. This is what lament is. So we see here in this psalm this beautiful pattern. He goes from lamenting to supplication, to asking, to faithful determination, to trust, and then it climaxes in worship. And this is so helpful to me. We can actually live this out. So this has been a good psalm for me. I hope it's really helpful to you guys as well. We want to live lives that are vibrant, not plastic and shallow. And the psalms help me to connect what I'm going through in the moment back to God and to walk with him. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys. Feel free to share it, and we'll all walk with God through this difficult and stressful time. Thanks for being with me this morning.